Hello, and welcome to my show, Searching for Integrity. My name really is John Smith, and I'm searching for people with integrity. Why? Because our country suffers from IDD, Integrity Deficit Disorder. And today we have a hearing from Rebecca S. Is it Chopp?
Chopp.
Chopp. Okay. PhD, and has a long history of being, I guess your last sitting was University of Denver, is that right?
Correct.
Right. Now, see, I lived in Denver some.
Nice. It's a beautiful city.
Yes, it is. My wife ran a ski lodge in Breckenridge.
Oh, lucky her.
Well, she liked it.
Nice.
When was the last time you went skiing?
I'm not a skier, I'm a hiker. So
Even
I do
better.
the 14ers, the 13ers. I'm an avid hiker. That's one of the reasons I'm in Colorado.
Lucky you. Lucky you. I didn't learn to ski until late, until after my left knee had torn up all the way. But my wife, she grew up on the Swiss mountains over in
Nice.
Europe,
Very nice.
very much so. If you looked into something, that is something that, well, let me just tell you, you were probably looking at the hearing that the congressional peoples, and there were three presidents, I think, who gave their
Yes. Yes,
thoughts. Did you catch any of that?
I did.
What'd you think?
Well, uh, I think they followed their lawyers.
You're right. That's the first thing my wife said.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I get that. I've been in those hot seats. But I really think it is a time for university leaders to speak out of their heart and their moral passion for democracy and education and developing leaders. But, lawyers are influential these days.
that's right. And you probably tell their answers were certainly done by lawyers.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
it was embarrassing.
It was embarrassing. Uh, and, being a president now as compared to my first presidency, which was in the year 2000, at Colgate is so much harder because it's all become politicized and the funding is more and more difficult and people require so much. So it takes a special kind of person. I know one of those three leaders, and she is wonderful, but I do think she was influenced by the lawyers too much.
Well, it certainly looked like it. Um,
Yep.
didn't know how much other I would get into, but let's go back to your book.
Okay.
Still Me. That's the title.
Correct.
And you have pre-sale orders.
Yes, on Amazon.
That's great. That's a good way to do it. Um, tell me about Still Me.
Well, when I was diagnosed nearly 5 years ago, about four and a half with Alzheimer's in the early stages, one doctor told me that in 3 years I wouldn't be buttoning my shirt. Another doctor said, there's so much you can do. And she talked about this new research on lifestyle changes, but it was hard to find. And it really was hardly any written by people with Alzheimer's. Most of the books are written by caregivers, and that's so important. So after a couple of years, I had a friend say, you ought to write a book. And my son, who grew up with me as an academic, he's not an academic, said to me one day, you have to write a book. This is too important, and this information is too hard to find. So the book is about my story, and it's about being diagnosed and the importance of early stages, early stage diagnosis. It's about the changes you can do to delay the progress of your symptoms. That's the real game. Instead of having those symptoms start showing up in your 3rd year, why not have them show up in your 10th year or your 8th year or your 12th year? But that takes exercise and diet and creativity and social engagement and sleep and, other brain healthy things. So it's about all of those. And I try to explain the science, my personal experience, research, qualitative research I've done. And I try to tell it with a light hand and a bed of joy, because this disease is terrible. And we all know people with this disease, and it's tragic. But you can live a long time, and you can live well and with joy. And I talk a lot about my own experiences of getting into creativity and things like that. And then I talk about how to live forward and pay forward. And the book is filled with lots of good tips, as well as stories, science.
I'm sorry, I meant to interrupt you.
As well as stories and lots of science.
Oh, that's okay. And don't forget your artist.
Right. And some of my art's in there too.
I looked at this, and I guess the first thing on the list of what to-dos are a lot of that is exercise.
Yes.
I mean, it just blew out to me how that was.
Yes, exercise is so important. So when you're exercising, your brain is flooded with chemicals that help your neurons connect. And it literally helps develop your memory center of your brain. We used to think you couldn't grow new brain cells or new neurological connections. We know that's wrong now. And exercise is a key factor. So the only way I wrote this book was I had this very active, I got him as a puppy, now he's 2.5 dog. And we'd go on these fast walks or little jogs in the morning for about an hour. And when I came back, my brain was filled with those chemicals, and I could sit down and concentrate for 2 or 3 hours to write the book. So I exercise about 2 hours a day, but it's walking the dog. I do some strength training. I like to tell people, do what you love. Whatever you love. If it's dancing around the house, just move.
Well, we all know you still remember the twist.
Oh, I do. I wish I had a place to go twist.
When you have your doctor involved, are we reaching anything on medication?
They put me on the standard kind of Aricept, which is to delay loss of memory. And people have been given that for several years. When I was diagnosed, the FDA had not approved the medications to treat Alzheimer's. And there are now 2. And I'm not taking them yet because I'm looking at the 3rd one about to be approved. They also just delay the progress of the symptoms. Technically, they reduce the amyloid plaque, one reduces it and the other one prevents it from developing more, from building. But I think the real thing about these medications is they help, but it really is the breakthrough that the FDA and Medicare, FDA will approve and Medicare will fund these, because there are lots of great drugs in the pipeline.
Right. Do these drugs are they been coming out, I guess, 1 and then 2 and then 3, that type of thing?
Yes,
Okay.
by different companies. So it's really just, I mean, they could potentially, several of them could come out at the same time, and that may happen in the future. But right now, what we had was 1, 2, and then there's now a third one very close to approval.
Very good. Well, I hope that that works with the other two sitting out there, I guess, available.
Yes.
I know of one of those. I think it starts Don or Don or something.
Uh, Donanemab is the one that they're looking at. And Combi and aducanumab is the 2 they have approved.
I see. Great.
Yeah.
Well, I have my doctors at the the VA, Veterans
Yeah,
Administration.
good.
And
Well, the VA is really doing a lot of interesting research into Alzheimer's.
Right.
They're doing they have a memory care center that's very advanced. So they're very much on top of the game, I think.
I think so too.
Mhm.
But I also hear people talking them down, but that's what can I say? I disagree with all that.
Yeah, well, I think I don't know about the other areas of treatment. I hear good things. My husband is a vet, but I know at least in Alzheimer's, they are really advanced. They were approving the first drug, aducanumab, even before Medicare was supporting it.
Right. Would you have a look back, I guess, and tell me, were you a widely published author educationally? Or
Yeah, I
okay,
had 5 books. My field, which I taught in for about 14 years, was theology, philosophical theology.
only
And then
5?
pardon?
Said only
Oh,
5?
really, I know. I mean, I have a friend who's like in his 60s, and I think he's like on his 36th book or something. But I only had 5, but I had like 150 articles. So,
Oh yeah, sure.
but
That's what
at
circulates.
one point, I decided to go into higher ed administration. It was fun. I got to work with people. Felt like I had impact.
Right. Well, my mother was diagnosed
Hmm.
uh, with Alzheimer's, and she, how do I put this in reverse order? She was in an old folks' home
Hmm.
when they discovered it,
Mm.
and I found out that she was not in a very good place, so I
Hmm.
found a better one closer to home, our home,
Good.
and we then got a call, and she was out in the courtyard and tripped and
Mm.
broke her hip.
Well, that happens a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, she was in the hospital for about a week,
Yeah.
and the interesting part about that is that she never learned to walk again,
Mm. Hmm.
and she was doing fine with the had a wheelchair, running around, got
Mm.
to know everybody, that type of thing. And there were certain marks that kind of that turned to me that have me looked at that. And it was one morning for breakfast, I came over to her and I said, Mama, are you not going to eat your bacon?
Mm.
And and it was when she didn't want any more bacon, I thought that was a turning point.
Yeah. Those
She's
things that shift in any normal behavior is those are big points.
well, she's certainly from the South, So she's had plenty of pig.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you find certain places or that you go
Well,
for?
I uh what I what I what I know and what I believe is that everybody's different and everybody progresses at different rates and different things show up. But I and aging too, your taste can change and all. But Alzheimer's, your taste can change and your smell can change. So I tend now to like foods with bright colors for some reason. It's almost as if my eyes are more important in eating than my taste buds, which are weakening. But I actually never did like bacon, so bacon isn't a big one for me. But I used to like chocolate, and I don't like it at all anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really? Well, no going out porch to porch on Halloween for you.
No, absolutely not. And they say dark chocolate can be healthy for you
Yes,
and healthy for your brain.
it didn't know that. I thought it was for the heart.
No, it's
Interesting.
good for the brain too, because it's full of antioxidants.
Tell me where Swarthmore College is.
Swarthmore is south of Philadelphia in Swarthmore, Pennsylvania. So it's kind of a part of the greater Philly area. And it was started by the Quakers. So it has beautiful gardens. And it's a very uh, kind of intellectual school. The kids have nearly perfect SATs and all that kind of thing. It's a beautiful college and a fun place. Very small, only about I think maybe 1,600 students.
Interesting. Interesting. Now, I was just thinking earlier, what I wanted to put together is you're living in Denver, I assume.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, we lived, over time, 10 years, something to that.
Nice.
And what we became concerned with was that, and what my thought was that how much snow are you permitted to walk in?
I know exactly what you mean. They don't clean the streets and the sidewalks here, right?
That's
It's
right.
very funny. And it's okay most of the time. Like this year, we won't have a bad snow year, we don't think. Uh, but on those years, you get horrible snow years. One year I lived maybe 2 blocks from the campus, from the DU campus, and they don't plow the streets, and they don't ever plow the side streets. So they didn't plow the streets. I couldn't get my car out, and I had to find boots that I'd had up at Colgate in upstate New York and trudge to campus in about 16 inches of snow. So
Really. Is this around 2010, 2011 with the big snow?
no, it was probably 15 or 16. I know that big snow you're talking about because I have a sister who has lived here since the 60s, but this was probably not as big as that.
What would you do that you haven't done yet? You got something on your agenda that you want to do with?
Well, um, yeah, I would love to do a little more traveling. Uh,
Mhm.
we didn't know again um, how rapidly I would progress, even with all the lifestyle changes. And now my doctor thinks I'll be good for another 5 to 10 years. She thinks I'll hold pretty steady because I have for 3 or 4 years. So I would like to uh, travel. In my jobs as president, I kind of traveled the world. So I don't have much of a desire to go to exotic places, but I'd like to go to Scotland where I've never been. I'd love to go back to Paris.
Hootman.
uh, I'd like to, if if it really worked, I'd love to go back to the Christmas markets in Germany. There's so much on my mind right now. And I'd like to do more traveling in the United States. I've been to every state, but I haven't been to Alaska. But the United States has so many natural wonders.
Yes.
So I'd like to, I'm kind of an outdoorsy girl. So,
Right.
and the other thing I'd love to do is see if I really had my dream, someone would just transport me to all the top museums in the US and maybe in Paris and England and the Netherlands and Vienna. I'm a museum nut. So, and
Well, that's great.
besides traveling, I'd love, and now that my book is done, I'll go back to painting.
Right. Now, are you starting on book number 2 coming out?
No, I think I'm done.
Okay. Because I read
And
somewhere.
maybe I will, yes, I've had people encouraging me, and maybe I will do book 2. I thought about doing a children's book for fun and illustrating it. But right now, I just want to go back and paint, do some traveling.
Absolutely. That's the way to take it.
Yes.
If you enjoyed this time, I'm glad you came.
Yeah, it was great. It's wonderful to talk with you. And I love your notion of integrity deficit disorder. I mean,
Yeah,
we see it all the time, right? I mean, in
absolutely.
just little ways. I was talking to somebody at the gym today. Um, Nobody puts weights back anymore. And they don't lift heavy weights off the machines. So people like me can't use them. They don't think about others. They don't live their life with any integrity. And that's a tiny, tiny example. You get big scale in the country. Yeah,
Yes.
I have enjoyed talking with you, and I toast your theme.
Well, thank you very much. I'm glad that you came on and let people see you
Thank
and
you.
admire you. And for me, I'm just listening to my listeners, and I try to make them happy with what I'm doing,
Good.
searching for integrity. And the last part I've got, now wait, now we forgot about Amazon's where they get your book. Is that right?
Yes, Amazon and Barnes and Nobles will
Okay.
be selling my book, and hopefully some other bookstores will pick it up. But in the publishing world, it's all kind of iffy. So we'll see. What we will send copies to other bookstores, and we will hope they will run it. But you can always get it on Amazon and Barnes and Noble.
Absolutely. I thank you for being on the show here
Thank you.
and tuning in to Searching for Integrity. So long and happy trails to all.